Hello and welcome to the Catch a Lift Coaches Corner. I'm Cal head coach Melissa Luke, and this week I am honored to welcome U.S. Army veteran Carmelo Rodriguez to today's show. Carmelo is a U.S. Army veteran, D.C.
Hey, how are you?
police officer, writer, Cal veteran athlete, and so much more. Welcome to this week's episode of Coaches Corner. Carmelo, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing today?
I'm I'm awake.
That's Oh, I feel you there. I feel you there. So we have, man, so much that I want to talk to you about, Carmelo, today. Let's jump right into it. Let's start kind of with a little bit of service background. Carmelo, what led you to the Army?
Well, I grew up in New York, um, poverty state. I mean, I grew up in the ghettos in the slums, so it was a way out for me. I mean, everybody has their story, why they want to join, and whether they want to pay for college or they want to do a service to their country or whatever. Mine, it was a way out for me.
Yeah. Carmelo, talk to us a little bit about when you signed up and, what was your intention that time, kind of career-wise in the military with your MOS? What direction did you go?
Well, I initially I had no idea what I was doing or what I was getting myself into,
Yeah.
and at the time the only thing I had available was a combat job or a cook, and I was like, yeah, well, I'm not gonna be a cook. I'm already a cook out here in the field. Like I hate it,
Yeah.
so combat is the way to go. So I signed up to be a Cav Scout, 19 Delta, in the U.S. Army, and I just rode that wave all the way out. It was great.
Carmelo, will you talk to us a little bit about your deployment and what you did as a Cav Scout?
Um, well, the deployments. I mean, everybody knows that you're training day in and day out. I mean, you're away from home for the most part. I mean, your training is practically 2 to 3 months. I mean, 2 or 3 weeks out of the month consistently. And then you're basically just prepping for deployments. When you do deploy, it's all reconnaissance and it's all combat. So, I mean, whatever you get into, that's what you're doing.
Yeah. Carmelo, looking back now, on that time that you spent as as a Cav Scout, what do you remember most about it?
The brotherhood.
Yeah.
I mean, if I can pull any stories together, it would always be, when we were in the mix of everything, and it was hot and heavy, and it was just like, hey buddy, I got you, let's do this. And it was always the brotherhood. It always came right back down to it. And then after all that, we went to go eat wherever we went, and sat down, make sure everybody was all right, got ready for some more.
So, we'll get into some of this some more later in the episode, Carmelo, but I just want to take a minute now. You mentioned that the brotherhood sticks out so strong to you. Since getting out of the military, have you been able to find that, or is that something that's still, you know, that was kind of like the pinnacle of brotherhood for you, and you just haven't been able to find that again?
Well, it took me a while to actually find it. I went through my path after I got out. It was a bumpy road for me.
Yeah.
And then from there, I started seeking out veteran communities, and then I ventured off into my career, which I ended up finding a awesome veteran community. And then fast forward to where I'm at now, and I feel like I'm in a good place once again in some kind of veteran community amongst my own career. So
That's that's good to hear, Carmelo. Let's, back up a step here and, let's touch on that transition out because I mean, it's tough for everybody and very unique, for everyone in different ways. Carmelo, what was your transition like out of the Army back into the civilian world?
um so initially, when I got out of service, I got picked up for a scholarship at Penn State University. Super awesome. I was excited. I was like, wow, this is awesome. Um, but I ended up in the dorms, which was, anybody that's been to a war, I can say, I will tell you this now, don't do it.
Oh man, I can only imagine.
I mean, especially in a leadership position, and now you're with a bunch of 17-year-olds, 18 that don't know anything about anything, but they're very opinionated, and there's an abundance of them.
Yeah.
It was very weird for me in that angle, and I ended up leaving that, and then the road was bumpy. I ended up going through a divorce. I literally lost everything. It took me a little over a year to actually get back on my feet, and that was through, once again, the veteran community where I was located, and it was very, very small. It was maybe a handful of people, and they were literally like, dude, you're going through some stuff.
Yeah.
Just a day by day, like, you want to go for a walk, like, you want to just get out of your head,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So that definitely helped.
Yeah. Carmelo, you would get to a point where you would spend time working in a jail in New York during kind of that transition period. Will you tell us what that was like during that time for you?
That was actually really cool. A lot of people would say that that's a scary experience, but a lot of the people that I ended up interacting with, I felt like were characters in my community as a whole. So whether it was somebody that I was in the military with, a neighbor of mine, a friend of mine, these were people that I was interacting with, and so it was an experience. I mean, you are in jail or you are in prison, so there are things that you're gonna see that's like, holy crap! I mean,
Yeah.
this is now,
Yeah.
and when they tell you that prison is its own community, it really, really is. It's its own little city. They have their own rules. I mean, they have their own wars, and it's something that happens on a day by day. So it was an eye-opening experience. I ended up meeting a lot of soldiers or prior soldiers in the prison system, both as employees that were working with me and as prisoners,
Okay.
which was which was weird. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, to sit across these guys and to interact with them, and just basic interaction, and we over here, shooting stories back and forth, and it always comes down to, dude, what happened?
Yeah.
Like, what happened? What's going on with your life up here? You know, and I would say that which is kind of funny. The military guys, they were the cleanest. They were, the most in uniform, the more, presentable. But at the same time, they were, when it actually came down to the wars, like I said, of the community, they were ruthless, and it was in your face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What can you kind of, to speak a little more to that, Carmelo, the veteran population that you saw in their serving time, was there anything that you kind of were able to notice as a group about them, or like there seems to be a consistent pattern here, or is there anything that you kind of noticed as a whole of the veteran population that you saw serving time?
Absolutely. While I was in there, sitting down with these guys, just hashing out and telling the stories or whatever, it literally, it was like a reflection of myself at one point, because it was like, okay, I did that. Okay, I'm here. And then you got out, and what happened? And then, they tell their same story, like, yeah, it was promising at one point, and then I had a crash. And, I went left instead of going right. That was literally the only difference. And, one decision turned into two, which turned into
Right.
four. And it was like, they an outlet. They didn't have that support. They didn't have that family, because they've been gone for so long that it was like, who are you? You're
Yeah.
you're a stranger, you know? Yeah. So that was an eye opener for me. and
Yeah.
yeah. So being in the prison and seeing that they actually had like their own little support groups and their own little, kept pretty close. They try to stay up on their education and everything like that because, while you're in there, that's the most you can do to, I guess, enhance, your
Right.
time there or make it better and, do whatever you can to get out as fast as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. And so, Carmelo, you now work as a DC police officer. And so again, you're still dealing with, the population obviously at large, but our veteran population too.
Yeah.
First off, talk to us a little bit just about being a DC police officer, how long you've been doing that and kind of how that became your career.
Okay. So I spent a little bit of time in the prison system, and then the last I want to say 3 years, I've been a out here,
Okay.
and I love it. I get to communicate with the community. I you know get to interact and all this other stuff. But more than anything, um, I get to help people. I
Yeah.
to serve again. So these are all things that that I wanted to do. You know, moving forward, I could say it's been interesting in the military community, in the law enforcement community, and public servant as a whole.
Right.
Um, over the last, let's say, year or two, that we've been noticing, and so in the veteran community, as we all know, there's a wave of people that go through the VA and the whole process with medication
Yeah.
and all this other stuff.
Right.
And then at their own, support groups and, whatever they can in order to an outlet, in order to have a friend, in order, whether it's the gym, whatever it is. And then the wave of the COVID took over and it everything away from everybody.
Yeah.
So over, the last year or more, I would say I've been noticing an increase of like suicide, um, increase of like domestic violence, suicide, alcoholism, drugs. I mean, overdose, you name it, and it's just going up. And um, it's a weird and eerie feeling to go to somebody's house that's on the brinks of everything, and then you sit down and you talk to them or you figure out who they are and what they're doing, and you know you're like, crap, I was there.
Yeah.
Crap. And then you start to realize like they don't have that support. They don't have the the hobbies that they once had. I'm a big fan of going to the gym and putting in the work because
Yeah.
that's how I relieve stress. That's a hobby of mine, and it's an outlet.
Right. Yeah.
I guess communicate amongst one another is the biggest thing that I would say. Communications open amongst your friends, and there's some chats. I mean, people think that it's crazy, but it works. It
Yeah.
does, and you eye on one another, and you notice the differences. One call goes so far when you actually seeing this person face to face. You can see
Right.
that there's something wrong. You don't normally look like that. What's up with you?
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. So it's cool.
What do you think that the civilian population is missing when we talk about, our veteran community and these struggles that they're facing, and, you know, even if we narrowed it down now into this last, kind of year plus since we've been dealing with COVID, um, what would you tell the civilian population that you think they're kind of missing with this piece with veterans?
I would I would try to tell them to like get more involved. Like go to a local meeting, go to a VFW and just interact. And I feel like that's the best way to actually kind of get a grasp of, what your person, your loved one, your neighbor, your friend is actually going through, is to actually, sit down and talk to these people. Not on a, hey, tell me a war story. No, just
Right. Yeah.
interact. Just sit down
Right.
for a minute. Like, what's up, bud? How's everything? And it's more than just, we don't want your sympathy, we don't want, any of that. We just, sometimes we just want a conversation, and off of that, you'll pick it up and you'll be like, oh, well, that's different. And then you talk to another guy, and and that's the only way that you're actually going to be able to not even completely understand, but just, partly, get a piece of it, is to interact. And that's what I would say. Go to some of these meetings. Volunteer. Whatever you have to do, and you'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I can't agree more. I think just opening up those dialogues, whether it is just right within our veteran community, brother and brother, sister, brother and sister, but again, like civilians and military, like our veterans, the conversation has to be opened up between them. I know some of the more healing times I've had, during the past 10 years has been with civilians and been able to connect with them in kind of unique ways. And it's certainly helped my recovery because it's like, no, they're not the enemy. You
Hmm.
know, we have misunderstandings between our communities, but when you open up that dialogue, you can kind of bridge that gap. So much good can be done.
Very, very
Yeah.
true. And we have whatever wars that we have going on in our mind, or whatever it is on our daily routines or whatever. But if you sit down with a civilian that's actually going through significant struggles, you'll tend to realize that they're dealing with some struggles on their own. It might be a little different, but it's the same.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So to break down those walls and actually sit down and be like, well, this is what I got going on, and you're like, oh, well, this is what I got going on, and you're like, holy crap,
Right.
it's very similar. You know?
I think that's a really good point, Carmelo. And I know I've been guilty of this myself, during hard times or during a very dark period. You know, it's so dark and it feels so heavy, and you think, I'm the only one that feels this way. I'm the only one that's got just bricks and bricks and bricks stacked up on my back. But that's not the case, you
Yeah,
know. And I think we feel that way, so we isolate more because it's just me,
yeah.
Um, but yeah. I like that. Get that conversation opened up. Um, so Carmelo, you had, I don't even know how I would describe this situation. You went through a situation with the VA where you were mistakenly declared dead.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, wow. Carmelo, tell us about this, and what was this experience like for you?
that that was a roller coaster all by itself. About 2 years ago, I was declared deceased by the VA. I got a letter at the house. I thought it was a complete joke.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was a joke, and I was like, whatever, And then I reached out to a significant other, and I was like, hey, guess what I got? And she was like, you better call the VA right now. And I was like, whatever, this is a bluff. This is
Yeah.
something, whatever. So I gave it a day, and then I called, and I was like, hey, so I got this weird letter, about to the estate of, and you know how the customer service is. You're gonna wait an hour,
Yeah.
to get a representative, and then based on your conversation, then they're gonna forward you to somebody. You're gonna wait
Yeah.
another 30 minutes. Yeah. So I had this brief. I would say brief after this long wait, and I was like, hey, so I got this problem, and I read them the letter, and they were like, um, we're gonna have to call you back. And I was like, wait, what? And they were like, yeah. The lady was like, uh, so I don't know what to do here. And I was like, wait, excuse me?
Oof.
She was like,
Good
wait, so
night.
I'm gonna have to have somebody call you back because I don't know what to do. And I was like, okay. And then I waited the next day because nobody contacted me back. I waited the next day, my daily routines, and then I got a check in the mail. And I was like, what the heck? I opened the check, funeral expenses. I was
Oh man.
like, wait, is this happening? Is this really happening right now? So I called the VA and I was like, hey, this is what I got going on. And they were like, um, can you hold on? And I'm like, yes. And then they were like, we're gonna have somebody call you back. Yeah. And then I guess later on that day, an attorney called me and was like, this is what we need you to do. So um I went over to the VA office that they had in New York. And I sat down with them. I was showing them the documents, and they were like, "Is this really you?" And I'm like,
Ah,
"Yeah,
jeez.
it's really me." I think they asked for like 5 forms of ID. I had to sign
Right.
paperwork. It was a lot of back and forth. And they were like, "Yes, we're gonna get this fixed. Give it about a week." And I was like, "Cool, awesome." A couple of days later, I got my final pension check, and I was like, "What the heck is going on?" And then I want to say a week or two after that, then I got a letter stating that this is the final notice that all of my benefits from the VA is going to be cut. So I would get no more
Oh
medical,
my gosh.
no more anything. So I was like, okay, now this is getting real because
Right. Yep.
I take medicine.
Yep.
I take breathing medication for whatever reasons. So I'm like, okay, now this is bad. So now I'm doing this back and forth. And then it didn't really hit me until um, I went to the bank. So, or not even the bank. I went to the ATM and I was getting some cash for some reason. I think I can't remember, but I went to go get some cash, declined. And I was like, what
Oh
the
my
heck?
gosh.
Yeah, I'm like, I just got paid this the other day. I know I got money. So I called the bank and I'm like, hey. And they were like, what do you mean? And I'm like, yeah. And they were like, you have to go to the bank. And I went to the bank and I was like, hey, what's going on? And they were like, it shows here that this account is closed because whoever is this is, deceased. Like, what are you talking about? I'm right here. So then this started spiraling out of control to now every single agency was notified that I was deceased. And now
Oh my gosh.
2 years, literally 2 years, just trying to regain my life back. I went through fraud. I went through, the stuff with the bank. Um, I went to the DMV and they were like, we can't help you. Like, we don't know what to do. We don't know what to
Yeah.
do. So there was a lot of things that went on. And like I said, it took me 2 years to be able to, revive myself.
Yeah.
Until this day, I randomly get information that comes in my way, and I'm like, no, this is what I have to show that, hey, this is what I got going on. So it was a real, really bad experience. Um, Due to that, I mean, like it since it was high stress and I was in my career, and then I was dealing with this high stress. Like I went through significant moments of, I would say PTSD. Like I was having really bad nightmares at one point, and I was just like, "What the hell is going on?" You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then at one point, um, I ran out of my medication, so I ended up going to the VA hospital, and I was getting this back and forth, because they were like, no, it shows here that you're this. And I'm like, no, I'm not. Because you know how in the front they're like, I need your information in order to process you. I'm like, no, no, I'm right here. And they're like, no,
Right.
it's this. And I ended up arguing with them. The VA police got involved. And then luckily, my doctor was there and was like, that's my patient. That's,
Right.
that's I'm like, what the heck? You know what I mean? So it was really bad for a while.
How did you push through that time, Carmelo? I mean, what were you doing to, you're struggling bad. They're telling you you're dead. Everything is messed up, every government agency.
Yes.
How
So
did you work through that?
what I ended up doing when I realized that I wasn't getting anywhere, I I started vlogging. So I opened up a YouTube channel and I was like, you know, if I don't if I don't get anything done here, I want you guys to see all of my steps. You know what I mean? And then you could possibly help me figure it out. Or, if I do end up figuring it out, these are the steps that you need to take. So I ended up initially just vlogging the steps that I was taking. And then I was like, you know what? I want people to see that I'm actually living outside of this, like this isn't gonna best me.
Yeah.
This isn't gonna, take my life away. I'm gonna keep living. I'm gonna live my life. So then I started vlogging about, beginning journeys and then how I kept living my life, even though I was going through these tragedies, because, I refused to let that be the end. I refused. I mean, I bust my butt so hard to get to where I was then. And then, yes, it was stripped away, but I was fighting every single day to get that back. And I refused to lose that battle. So I started vlogging about it every step of the way, every two steps forward, every however many steps back, and then it got picked up by national news, the story, because it was like, holy crap, this guy's actually doing
Right.
it. Yeah, so I got picked up by national news, and then from there, it ventured off into other things, and I decided to write a book. So everything turned into something because I refused to give up
Yeah.
on what I actually wanted. Yeah.
So let's keep going with that, Carmelo. Talk to me about that. Talk to me about, writing about this experience and kind of where that's taken you.
Okay. So once once it was all complete, like at one point it was just all journal. Everything was all journal and everything was just vlogging. And then when I was closer to the end, I was like, maybe I can turn this into a book and then push this out to whoever won't be able to see it online,
Okay.
who would prefer to read it, whatever it is. So then I turned it into a book. And from that point of me publishing the book, which was a whirlwind because the anxiety was to the roof because I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my
I can't even imagine.
God.
Yeah.
Like, I know, doing your vlogs or whatever, you can edit out everything. But when you're putting out a memoir, you're literally putting your story in there, So I didn't want to leave anything. So I put as much in detail in it as possible so he can actually get a full feel of what was happening. And from that point of publishing, it literally blew up. Like the story really took a shape of its own. And for a while, I was doing, books all over, and then COVID came around and said, "Hi, we're
Yeah.
gonna cut." But I refused to give up. So I kept doing online ventures. I kept, trying to pursue more options, and that point that I pushed to a year now, um, the book is turning into a film.
Wow. That's incredible. Congratulations on that,
Yeah,
Carmelo. That's
yeah,
so cool.
yeah. So
Wow.
now,
So
yeah.
what's that process going to look like for you?
So the idea behind the film is we're gonna do a series.
Okay.
So it's gonna be like shows or whatever. Hopefully a few of them, and then we can move forward, venture off into something else. But while I am doing all of that, I've written other books along the way, and whether it's in uh, just like little police stories here and there, or actual motivational books that that helped me get along, get through, a lot of stuff, what I was thinking, what I was doing, you know, my goals, how I wrote that down, why I wrote it down. That was one of the books that I did write, and I pushed through, and I kept writing along the way because while this is something that's uh, I could say profitable, it's still a hobby that I adjusted to from all of this other crazy stuff that's been going on because okay, the gym is closed. I can
Right.
adjust energy and turn it into something else. I can do something else and put all of my energy into that and be successful. If you're gonna bust your butt in the gym so you can get the best physique as possible, or you can be as powerful as you can, you can also take that energy and transform it into something else and be just as successful. So I look at it in that aspect, and I continue to move forward that way.
Yeah. Carmelo, what would you say to anybody listening that, either they want to write a book, they have, a story in their head they want to tell, or maybe like you, maybe they had, diaries and journal entries, and they want to, write a memoir. How do you even get started with that?
um, don't stop writing.
Okay.
I would say, from beginning to end, whatever ideas, whatever anything that you have, put it on paper. Because yes, it might not make sense now, but you can pull it out and put it somewhere else. The way that I write, which is some people might say is unique because I don't have a lax schedule that I can just sit down and just type away.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, what I do is while I'm driving, my drive to work is like an hour or
Okay.
what. So while I'm driving, I'll hit record. Whatever's on my mind, that's going into that record. That's going into that recording. And then when I have time to come back to it, then I am gonna sit down and I'm gonna type out what I'm saying while I'm saying it. Because now I'm not only just like saying one thing. Now I'm saying what I'm saying, but then I'm saying why I'm thinking it, and
That's
that's
interesting.
that's also it also gives you more options.
Right.
So it's like you're writing, but you're also brainstorming in a sense. And then when you come back to it, then you can sit down and you can put it all down. So if I could say anything, it's just to don't stop, because once you stop, then it's harder to continue. So just don't stop writing. And then once you get to that point that you that you're not, I mean, that you continue to write, that you continue to move forward, and you feel like that you're complete with it all, then as you move along with the process, I went through it. I learned by uh, looking for everything online.
Okay.
So by looking for everything online, it worked great. I mean, it didn't cost me anything to get a consultant because I was looking for whatever I was looking for right there. And then I followed the cheapest steps I can possibly follow to get to my goal. So if I can tell anybody anything, it would be literally that. And then whether or not you want to run through a self-published platform or you want to run through a publishing company, that's up to you once you get to that point. Yeah.
Thank you for that, Carmelo. Um, Something that really hit me that you said is, you put all this energy into the gym, either into getting, this greatest physique you can have, or, building this power and strength. Will take that same energy and commitment and, apply it in other areas of your life. I think that's incredibly valuable to kind of think about and ponder. Like, are you doing that? Are you applying, that same energy into these other areas? And I want to talk a little bit about that with you, Carmelo, because I know fitness is a big part of your life. Um, Tell us how fitness has changed your recovery.
So initially when I got out, I was, I felt like I was in amazing shape at that time. But then I completely stopped working out. And then that's when the buildup of, whatever anxiety, energy, whatever you would want to call it, it was definitely there. So I go back to my little small group, and it was a much, much, much older guy. And, he sat me down and he was like, buddy, I'm going to tell you what helped me. And I was like, what? And he was like, I started going for jogs every day. And then he's retired. I think it was like a retired Marine or something. I don't even remember. I'm gonna have to reach out to him. It's been a while. But and all he did was jog every day. He was like, I would jog in the morning, get that air in your body, get that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't want to hear this. Like, I don't care. Go away. And he's like, I'm telling you. He would tell me, stop eating the crap that you're eating and go for a jog in the morning. He was like, would you do that? Would you do that right before a humongous ruck? Would you shove all that crazy food in your face? And I'm like, no. And then he was like, okay, so you're gonna start doing that now. And I'm like, okay, maybe you might be right. So, then I started jogging with him, and then he's like, oh, slow down. I'm an old timer. You're gonna have to whatever. So over time, I started to get back into jogging, into running, and then I started realizing that it wasn't. I no longer needed the anxiety medicine that I was offered. I no longer needed the medicine that I was offered to go to sleep at night. So little by little, I started noticing that I no longer needed the extra that they were giving me to get through day by day, and I based it all around just fitness, and I started eating healthier. And once I started doing that, once I started eating healthier, then I was like, holy crap, now I have the energy. Now, this stuff isn't bothering me as much as it should or typically would. And now when I did have my anxiety or my, whatever flashes of whatever was
Yep.
going on, now I'm sprinting. Now I'm hitting bursts. Now I'm squatting whatever, I can get down until I'm wobbling to my car, and that would get it out. So now I'm going to be able to sleep that night, and I'm going to start it all over. However it was necessary to, and over time, the stress, the sleep deprivation, the everything, it went down drastically, to the point that it was just like a transformation of where I was to where I am, and it was like, crap, like this was really, really necessary, and it took me that much time to see it.
Yeah. Yeah. Carmelo, how do you handle kind of prioritizing fitness in your life? You're very busy, you have a family, you have a career, you're a writer, you're a life coach, you have all of this stuff going on in your life. How do you prioritize that fitness?
Right now, it's in the morning. Whenever, so my little guy, he wakes up about 7, 8. So um, my wife, she's on an earlier shift, so I'm like, hey, wake me up. So when she wakes me up, as she's getting ready, I'll go for a quick run or I'll go for a quick workout, and then I'll come back, and then she gets ready for work, and it's basically just to like get that jolt of energy,
Yeah.
the little zap in the morning that you need, and then I actually started transitioning into morning shakes because I started,
Okay.
as I started getting busier, I stopped eating.
Yeah.
So my wife is like, you're not taking in, the nutritions that you normally do or whatever it is. So I was like, okay, let me try to get these vegetable shakes in the morning. Wow, huge difference.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah. So that's how I was able to. That's how I've been able to balance, work and
Right.
fitness and everything like that. Yeah.
Carmelo, how did you first learn about Catch a Lift?
Back when I was in undergrad, there was a huge veteran community, and everybody was everybody in that community was part of this catch and lift program. But I was going through so much
Yeah.
that they didn't want to hear about it. I was
Yeah.
like, "Air, like, go away. I'm,
Yeah.
I'm I'm trying to pay these bills. I'm trying to deal with what I'm dealing with. Like, get away from me." And they're like, "It's gonna help." And I'm like, "You guys don't even help me with my homework. How am I? What I got going on? Like." So I didn't entertain it, and
Yeah.
then by little, my I kept in contact with all of my friends from undergrad, and like, hey, buddy, you know, you should really look into this in a different aspect, not so much of like how they're gonna help you or anything like that, but just look into it to see, what kind of connections you can make with the veteran community, you know, who you can inspire, who you can help, you know. I mean, like, and then I started looking at it that way, and it was like, yeah, you're right.
Well, we're all certainly glad that you found this community now at Catch a Lift, Carmelo. That's it for this week's episode of Coach's Corner. Thank you so much, Carmelo, for coming on today, sharing your story and your light with us all. We will be back next Wednesday at 1 Eastern Time with another new episode. Thank you to ClearBridge for your continued support of all things Catch a Lift. Thank you, Lynn Coughlin, Henry Pomper, Kaylee Nasiri, for your continued work that you do to push this podcast out. And thank you to the entire Kale team. Until next week, keep it real and stay Kale strong.